Okay, this is the English part, and from now we talk the remote medicine. And Dr. Suresh Munuswamy, most of you know him quite well because he took the first project in 1910, and that was a feasibility study of the remote medicine in India, and his result is well accepted in India, and he would explain that, and so it might be the national project at this moment, and so today I asked him to come from India to make a presentation of what happened after a project of the first year and second year. And you can introduce your colleague. And please start. And we are expecting it will take in total 2 hours, including the discussion. It's a little bit long, so you can interrupt the talk with your questions freely. Okay?
Thank you. Well, I guess I have been introduced, and I've been asked to make sure that you stay awake throughout the presentation. So I'll be asking you questions. Probably I'll have to start with the first question. How many of you have seen a Bollywood movie? Bollywood movie? Have you seen a Bollywood? No. Hollywood movies are 1.5 hours. Bollywood movies are much longer. Hollywood movies are usually 1.5 hours, whereas Bollywood movies are 2.5 hours. So my presentation would be more similar to a Bollywood movie, 2.5 hours. Unfortunately, without the heroine, without the dance, and pretty bit boring academic theories. I've been also asked to stop in the middle and then ask for questions. So you could imagine that would be the ad breaks that hopefully make you keep awake. And just like Bollywood movies, it starts with credits. You see HI, it's not high actually. It's health informatics. And I come from Indian Institute of Public Health in Hyderabad. There are several Indian institutes of public health across the country. And I also represent Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, which is part of Council of Scientific Industrial Research. Again, there are 37 laboratories across the country. And obviously, I am in KO Business School, and there is actually a relation to all these things. So a short story first. And just like a Bollywood movie, you have to go back into flashback mode. Okay. I first attended a KO Business School seminar back in 2008 in Mito campus, I think, if I'm right. And there, thanks to Professor Anegava, they were evaluating a lot of different business segments. And what really struck me was, and at that point of time I was a PhD student, I was thinking more into urban health and infrastructure-based healthcare research. But actually, after those seminars, I shifted from urban health to informatics. And the reason is quite simple. If you want to do anything in India, you have to use something that they are good at. And at least in India, we are fairly good in the software part. And that is also complementary to what Japan is good at, which is the hardware part. So if you are doing something in healthcare, and if you want to do something better in healthcare, and if you are looking at India and Japan, health informatics sounded like a very good idea. So I shifted from urban health to health informatics. And from there, apparently Dr. Sasahara actually left. He also gave another presentation on health informatics in Temple University sometime around that time. And that pretty much decided that I thought, okay, I'll get into health informatics. It went on for a while, maybe 2 years or 3 years. I finished my PhD at Tokyo Medical and Dental University, Ochanomizu, if you are probably aware. And then, same time in India, the Public Health Foundation was actually being launched in 2006 by the Prime Minister. And the Public Health Foundation is like an apex body which manages Indian Institutes of Public Health. There are almost 5 Indian Institutes of Public Health across the country. The first one was started in Hyderabad. We have campuses in New Delhi, Gandhinagar, Bhubaneswar. Then there is a new one coming up in Northeast, Shillong. But there are also satellite campuses in Bangalore and Gwalior. I'm sure you'll probably not be familiar with most of these names. But the basic idea is we are pretty much spread across the country. Okay? And we work with almost 15 state governments out of 26 states in India. There's a new one that's being created, but we just work with majority of the state governments. And as I told you, we also, or rather I also represent the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, which is supposedly the 4th largest research organization in the whole world. You should not ask about the outputs, it's just the numbers. They employ close to 6,000 PhD holders, and they have 37 laboratories across the country. And what the government actually thought was they do a lot of research which could be applied into healthcare. And there is nobody actually doing it. And this is the sort of multilateral, cross-cultural thinking that's going on across the world. There is science on one side, there's technology on the other side, there is medicine on the other side, and people do not talk to each other. And if people actually speak, then people's lives could get better. And that's what led to the government actually trying to connect these two institutions. We, the public health, or rather the Indian Institute of Public Health, started a relationship with the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and it's their academic wing. And we started what is India's first course in health informatics. So this course was started in 2013, and I also happen to be the coordinator of this course. I pretty much wrote most of the course content, the curriculum, and the degrees are awarded by ACSIR, which is the academy. And this is pretty much set up on the same ways as IITs and IIMs, which are started 40, 50 years before. So hopefully, at least in 20 years, we should get there, half the time at least. So in a way, not in a very direct way, you could pretty much say that the seminar that happened 5 years before had a role in setting up this health informatics course. It could have probably been set up any other way, but it could have taken another 2 years or 3 years or maybe never. But there is a direct link between Keough Business School seminar and this course. And I did get a promotion, and I am running the job of actually coordinating this course. So I should be pretty much thankful for that. These are our first batch of students, very small in number, 6, but I guess that's pretty much more than enough because this is an emerging field. And a lot of things actually have to be done. And I brought one of my students here, the guy in the middle. I guess it's time to say thanks for helping us to start this course. Not in a very direct way, but it is a kind of an indirect way that these seminars actually prove to be helpful, even in an invisible way. So I guess I have to request Professor Anegawa and Dr. Lovakanth, if you can please come here. We have a small memento to give you. A little bit of clapping would be great. Oops, thank you. That's the airline problems. I mean, the airlines didn't get lost though. Most of my presentation from now on is about what we have to do together. Now, all these things have not been direct. Things have been happening here and there, more in a chaotic way, and then suddenly something was born. And this is how usually things happen, probably in most of the world. But now I guess we have to make a concrete plan and maybe have a good idea on what we want to do together and hopefully take it forward. And my rest of the presentation is pretty much on what we have been doing in our very short time. Rather, this whole course has been started only in the last 6 months, and I have been working in this field maybe in the last 2 years or 3 years. So I'm just summarizing what I've been doing in the last 3 years or 4 years. So this presentation would be concentrating on, one, what is health informatics? And I guess after this presentation, whenever you see hi, you should probably remember health informatics and not other things. What is health informatics? Why health informatics is necessary for India and probably for the rest of the world. I would also kind of explain what Professor Anagawa mentioned, the KBS sponsored study, which established why health informatics is actually necessary for India. What is the feasibility? What are the benefits? And as I told you, what we are actually doing, and finally finishing it off with what are the opportunities for Japan, probably through KBS. What is health informatics? Bit of academics because I keep teaching classes. Now, health informatics is pretty much a multidisciplinary course, and this is the flavor of most of the countries actually. Now, you bring in healthcare, you bring in technology, and you put it on a software platform. And very simply put, it delivers a service. Okay? And this is what is health informatics. So it has 3 key areas: healthcare, informatics, which is the software platform, hardcore technologies, and informatics is also on a technology platform. So 3 distinct areas. And if you are able to deliver better healthcare service, then it becomes health informatics. Now, before we go further, what is our understanding of health system? Health system anywhere in the world has these components. Okay. 1, all systems have at least 4 categories. One is surveillance, then comes diagnostics, then you start managing, and if your management is successful, you do follow-up. If your management is successful, not successful, and if God is successful, obviously the patient dies, unfortunately. So in all health systems, you have these 4. And in each place, you can have informatics. Okay. Now, surveillance is all about seeing if the person is deceased, going to be deceased, or already deceased. Okay. You keep getting information, maybe height and weight, basic thing. If you think the height and weight is probably on the higher side, or rather the weight is higher side, height is not that much, then you assume that the person is actually obese. And you start maybe measuring blood sugar, probably blood pressure. And if you think there is a problem, then you go to the next step, which is start checking him, diagnostics. And if the diagnostics is positive, you start treating, which is management. Once you start treating, you start following it up, which is follow-up. And in all these places, technology helps, informatics helps, and this is all healthcare. Okay. The other way of seeing health system is basically service delivery levels. Health system can be delivered at home. This is an emerging field actually, home care health system. The other 3 ones are the traditional ways of delivering healthcare, the primary, secondary, and the tertiary. And this is pretty much common across the world. Whether you are living in India, Japan, or pretty much anywhere across the world, these things exist. And again, health system is divided into 23 specialties. This is the international classification of diseases. All the countries follow, and this is how health system looks everywhere across the world. Okay. On top of this, you also have what is the WHO way of seeing health systems, which basically says it has service, it has people, it has information, some kind of products, finances, and governance. Okay. And if I want to promote health informatics, what I pretty much need to do is get this PowerPoint presentation slide and this one onto an informatics platform. If I'm able to do that, then I have a healthcare service that can be delivered using technology, using informatics, and that's what we are actually trying to do. This is a presentation that I actually developed for Care Business School a long time ago, or rather maybe 3 years before or something. And this is how any kind of information technology platform actually looks like. You can call it using fancy names, e-health, m-health, u-health, whatever it is. But the reality is all of them have some kind of a connection in the middle, either a telephone line, internet connection, wired, wireless, and there is a device on both sides. You could have television long time ago. You could pretty much have a computer big sized long time ago, or a small sized one, a tablet, a mobile phone as it is happening now, or in future your computer could get onto your shirt, your glasses, maybe your shoes, or just about everything you wear, and everywhere around you, into your refrigerators, into your toilets, into your living room, bedroom, everywhere. But there is always a device, a connecting link, and on top of this you have a user interface, which is the software. And if you have all these three things, it becomes an informatics system. And if it is able to deliver healthcare service, then it becomes health informatics system. So this is pretty much the basics of health informatics. Now I am going back again to the definition. What is health informatics? Health informatics is three components. One is healthcare, informatics, and technologies. And I just showed you what is health and what is informatics. I'm not showing you about technologies because it is pretty wide actually. It's too much. Why do we need health informatics in India? Basic question. Now, in India, and in probably many places across the world, the health system is government dominated. More than 70% of all health system is government run, although 80% of people go to private clinics. There is always a mismatch because government services are not that great. Most of government health system are in rural areas, and this is how it is actually divided. At the last step is the community health worker, the village health nurse who goes around and delivering healthcare services to people. Just above that is the sub-center. Again, there is no medical doctor, but rather only a trained person who delivers healthcare facilities. The first step where there is a qualified medical doctor is the primary health center. On top of that, you have the community health center, which is pretty much at the maximum a 30-bedded hospital. And then you have the secondary health system, which is a district hospital facility. And finally, the tertiary health system, which is the medical college hospitals and rather the large specialty hospitals. But the problem here is 70% of healthcare professionals actually work in secondary and tertiary levels, mostly in district hospitals and city hospitals, but people are not there. India is still a rural country. 70% of people are in rural areas, where only 30% of hospitals are. So if you want to reach healthcare to people, you will have to put more and more hospitals in rural areas, basic answer. But that's very expensive, difficult, because rural area is not very accessible. You have hills, you have rivers, you have probably forests to cross. Okay. Also, even when it is available, the proportion of medical people available in healthcare is pretty low. The accepted average is around 3 people, 3 physicians per 1,000 people. What we really have is less than 1/10 of it, 0.3. And even this 0.3 is not uniform actually. You have only 0.1 per 1,000 people in rural areas. The majority of them live in urban areas. So the reality is for 70% of Indian people, the availability of physicians is 1/30th to the recommended level. And I'm not really sure if any kind of investment or whatever it is going to solve this problem in the next 5 years or 10 years. If you want to know what's the status of Japan, I guess Japan is also on the slightly lower side. The recommended level is 3 per 1,000. In Japan, it is 2 per 1,000. But because you have probably faster trains, I think it should be okay. So that's why we decided that we have to start in a rural side. And informatics hopefully can make a bigger difference. And what we have tried to do is study the bottommost part, the subcenter and the community health workers. What do they actually do? And can we bring in technology and informatics to deliver these services and make it work? Okay. So we went to this stage. Now we had an idea, or rather you could call it as a dream. And from dream, we thought we'll have to do a technical feasibility study. Okay, that's the next step. These are pretty much the processes of research. So you start with an idea, a dream, and then go to the technical feasibility, which is pretty much the design part and the development part in between. And then you do the practical feasibility, and if you are able to develop some kind of prototype, then it is the field trials, after which comes costing, cost efficiency, cost benefits, several costing methods, and then you go to the development phase. Now, I guess it is at this stage that we started this chaos-sponsored project, asking the question, a very basic question, is it possible to deliver all the services delivered at the subcenter level on a mobile platform? Just a very simple question. Okay. This was the team, and this was did in 2010, I guess. What we did was, we went to the field, we did literature review, we interviewed a lot of people, and we also held focus group discussion. We asked for their needs, and we also did landscape analysis, the ecosystem around it. And we found out that there are other problems more than that are even more important than the availability of doctors. Other problems that really were a problem were water was not available, piped water. Telephones were not available, but that part has been corrected because mobile phones actually took off. Power was not available. And even when it is available, there are very few roads. And you see that there is a huge problem with regard to roads and power. 44% of the rural country does not have proper roads. 46% of rural areas does not have proper powers. And even when they have, you have 10-hour power cuts, 15-hour power cuts, fairly long power cuts. And then even when there is a hospital, there is huge absenteeism. People are not there. Doctors are not there. 18% at primary health level, 50%, 52% in the community health center. That's fairly huge. And slightly going up and above. So it's not only the availability of healthcare people, but rather other issues, the ecosystem issues, the infrastructure issues that are actually plaguing the rural areas. So if you want to actually put a service, then you need to address all these things also. These are the services that are provided at the subcenter level. There are close to 14 different services. Okay. First, it starts with the maternal and child health service. And within maternal and child health, there are 5 components: the antenatal care, the intranatal care, postnatal care, and then after that, under 5 care, and then the adolescent care. So there are several components. And then there is family planning, conception. So there are actually 14 different services. Okay. And there are also several national health programs, close to 10, but rather now it is increased to 23. So there are almost, like, let's say, an approximate number of 50 different services being provided on paper, not in real though, at the subcenter level. And if you want health informatics to actually help you, you need to translate all these services onto a mobile platform. Is this possible or not? And that was our question. So what we actually did was we took the WHO model, which basically says every service has 6 components. We merged them into 3, which basically means 3 P's: people, products, and processes, management techniques, I believe. And what we did was we listed all the products on one side, all the processes on one side, and apparently you cannot still put people onto a mobile phone platform, so we left that off. Okay. So we were like asking ourselves, can you link all these products to a mobile platform? Do you have a digital version of these products? On the other side, can you convert all these processes into software? The report is rather large, actually, almost 60 pages or something, so I'm not going to show you the entire report, but rather just 1 page of it. This is a summary of all the products that are being used in the subcenter level, and we did an evaluation. Now, it's actually shown here with stars. If you see 5 stars, it means that product is already available in its digital version in the market. If you see 1 star, it means theoretical work is going on. What you actually find here is most of them are at least 2 stars, which basically means a prototype at least exists. A lot of them have 5 stars, which means they are already on the market. So it's only a matter of bringing them together. And if you can actually bring them together, then you can deliver whatever you are developing or delivering at the subcenter level on a mobile platform. Okay. So that was the conclusion of our study, that it is 100% feasible technically. Whatever service that is delivered at the subcenter can actually be delivered on a mobile platform. Theoretically, it is possible. Why should we do it? Okay. What are the benefits? Now, on a mobile platform, if you are delivering a service, then the basic thing is it reaches a lot of people. Okay. So it increases quantity. Basic idea. There are more mobile phones than there were landlines. It also improves quality. Now, earlier, when people used to do all these tests, differences, the results were variable. If I go to a lab, test my blood sugar, different people could give me different readings. There was a variation. Now we don't actually go to a lab to test a blood sugar, and even if you go, they just put it into a drop into a device that gives you a reading. Not 100% reliable, but the variation of reliability has actually decreased, or rather increased. The variation has decreased. Okay. So in a way, technology actually helps you to improve quality. If you transfer things, healthcare services, onto a mobile platform, you can get better quality and quantity. But what is even more important to us is equity. Can you reach poor people? We are not interested in reaching only the rich people, but rather, can you reach the poor people, people who cannot be otherwise reached in the forest, in the tribal areas, probably in places where we cannot reach them. I mean, if our professor can give us remote vehicles, probably we can reach. but otherwise we are still trying. Mobile informatics platform can actually help us with equity. Not only that, initial stages things are expensive, but as time goes by, it also becomes cheaper. The cost of telephone per minute has constantly gone down. And if you come to India, you'll probably be looking at one of the, or rather the world's most cheapest phone tariff. It would rather cost, it would probably cost maybe 500 yen or 1000 yen per month, nothing more than that. And you could be happily talking for a very long time. In fact, my telephone bills rarely cost 1000 yen actually. And with all the roaming and then traveling across the country. So we have the most cheapest phone calls. It does work. The benefit of that is you can scale up the services. If I am building one clinic and it is costing me let's say $1 million, if I build 100 clinics, it is $100 million. There is no other way. If I write a software, if it costs me $1 million, if I multiply it 1,000 times, it is still costing me $1 million, maybe a little bit more. It's not $100 million or $1,000 million. I just keep copying the softwares. So it's much more scalable. And at 1,000 copies, the costs actually keep coming down. So it's even more economical. But the benefit of all these things is that it is actually sustainable. Earlier, it was difficult for me to run these clinics because every clinic needed a dozen people. Every software does not need a dozen people. Every device does not need a dozen people. It may need people, but I could probably make them so easy that anybody could pretty much use it. So I don't need highly qualified people. So the result of all these things is it becomes economical, scalable, and sustainable. And these things apply not only to healthcare, but to all informatics systems, whether it is banking, whether it is communication, whether it is basic things like ticketing, these things apply. And this can also apply to healthcare. And this is with regard to systems. When it comes to people, it makes people smarter, or at least it makes people appear smarter. If you look into your phone records, mobile phones, I'm sure that at least you will have 200 to 500 contacts. Everybody has at least 200 to 500 contacts. Anybody having less? More, maybe. Can you actually remember 200, 500 numbers? No. But the mobile phone is actually making you appear smarter because anytime you can call 500 people. 20 years, 30 years before, if anybody actually remembered 500 numbers, he is a genius. Now everybody is a genius, or at least we appear geniuses. So mobile phones are already making us look smarter. Whether we are really or not is a different question. So that's the working definition of smartness. You are able to do things beyond your natural skills. I can pick up a phone, call somebody in America. 20 years before, 30 years before, I should probably be the president of this country or maybe running a church. The Vatican probably has a better connection to most of the places. But today anybody can do it. And I could do it freely on Skype. I could call a lot of people. Not only has people actually become smarter, but rather the processes themselves have become simpler. Make a call. It's very easy. Earlier, I should know how to use a big telephone. I should know how to place an international call. Or if I'm sending a letter, I should go to the post office. I should know the procedure. There are lots of procedures. Today, nothing. Processes have become much simpler. Also, devices have become smaller. Bulky computers that could have filled this room, now it fits into your pocket. It could probably fit into your watch in the future. Or you don't even need anything. Computing could be everywhere. So these are the benefits of informatics. And if you can make these benefits transferable to healthcare and hopefully take them to rural areas, then there is a possibility of addressing what are we lack. So this is the basic idea on the promise of health informatics. Whether it's going to happen or not, we'll probably know in the next few years. I've been here like 5 years. I hope that I'll be around for another 5 years at least. And maybe I'll have some answers. But initially, what are we doing? And that's my next presentation. Should I take a break and then ask for questions? Any questions? Just to confirm you're not sleeping.
What is the world standard of the health informatics education?
Thank you very much. We are in a world with no standards. That's pretty much the reality.
How about in Japan?
Now, I was just having a discussion with Dr. Sasahara in the afternoon, and he mentioned that last month the government came out with a white paper on software being used for healthcare. It's only a draft guideline actually. And even the US FDA came out with a draft guideline 6 months before. So unfortunately, we are in a place where even though you can technically deliver healthcare service on a mobile platform, there is one opposition from healthcare people, at least in the developed countries, because they would stand to lose some service and money. The second thing is, with regard to healthcare, everything is government regulated, or there has to be some kind of a regulation supporting it. And those things are a little bit lacking. And that's one of the reasons why most of these experiments actually happen in Africa, because there is very little regulations there. Also in India, because we are confused about regulations. And we still don't have much of it. But that's good for academics, because we have to generate evidence that hopefully helps the government people come out with regulations. So you can probably say it is a threat for business people, but an opportunity for academics. And that would probably be something that maybe we'll have to discuss tomorrow and see how to take it forward. Because number one, the device manufacturers cannot exist in this confusion. They need fair amount of clarity on what the regulations are so that they can actually start working and manufacturing devices. You cannot invest a lot of money, make all these devices, and get stuck in regulations. You will face what happened in the Sony versus whatever it is, the Betacam, whatever, where one regulation took off and then the other company lost a lot of money. Even with regard to the memory cards, I think SD cards have become pretty much standard. All other cards have lost. And this is nothing to do with technology, but only because of regulations. Whichever company gets beneficial regulations gets to own the market. Whichever company does not get beneficial regulations does not get to own the market. And this is 100% relevant as far as healthcare goes. And this is also one of the reasons why a lot of companies do not invest in healthcare. Because it takes a long time to invest or probably get products out. And then if there are no regulations to support, then there is no point actually making money. So I guess it is an open area, probably an opportunity for academics to do relevant research and hopefully make some suggestions in healthcare that could probably be converted into regulations. And more so for India and Japan, because Japan has a large device industry. India has a large market. People are there. 1 billion people are there. And what works in India happily works in Africa, most of Southeast Asia, South America. So. That's right. Yeah. Yes. 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 Now there are a few courses in America actually into health informatics. Now there is a difference between the way we run the course and the way most health informatics courses are actually run. Now in most countries, health informatics actually focuses on data. If you take any health informatics course, their biggest focus is on health records. Most of the countries. And also a few courses that are run in postgraduate diploma level in India. Everybody focuses on electronic health records, data standards. We do not. We are focusing on service. And that is because we don't have data. I mean, there is no point me running a course in India on electronic health records when there is no systems at all. But what we definitely have is healthcare service. And for us, getting this healthcare service, no matter data comes out or not, is more of a priority rather than working on data. You don't need data for service. Service comes first. If there is...
So your institute is focusing on what kind of service should be provided?
No, we are focusing on translating existing services onto an informatics platform.
So the translation?
Yes. So I'll again give you an example. Probably what, maybe my presentation will actually give an example. Any other questions? Should I assume people are sleeping? Please.
My question is regarding the transformation of the health data to the through the mobile phone or something like that. I think that the credentiality, privacy of the people might be overspread to the society. So I think it is very difficult to transform such kind of data to the.
Now, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example and then I will answer the question. Now, your question relates into data security.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what if I tell you that health informatics has got nothing to do with data? Now, I'll give you an example. Now, if I want to check your blood sugar, okay, the way I do it now is I take a drop of blood, put it on a device, it gives me whatever your blood sugar is. Now, this is an electronic way of doing a diagnostic test. The older way is you take 5 ml blood, you take it to a laboratory, do a biochemical test, and you get the results. Now, an analog service, an electronic service. Now, what happens is only if I store this data and if I have access problems. Now, I'm not working on data at all. What I'm trying to do is trying to convert as much analog services onto an electronic platform, taking it to rural areas. This is my priority. And this helps people. The data part only helps companies and systems.
I understand.
So for me, data security isn't an issue at all because we don't have much of systems. I'm trying to convert as much analog services into an electronic platform. Now, if I start collecting this data, your data every month, every week, or probably over 5 years, and if somebody sees that, then it is an issue. Of course, it is an issue. But the reality is, you're already happy that you could actually do the test at home. Okay? But there are a lot of tests that are not available in not home, but rather villages or towns across India. And my priority is to deliver the services there. The next step, which will definitely be an issue, is security, data security. And the reality is that there is no 100% answer to that question. There is no system on this planet that is 100% safe. I can probably start another lecture saying what are the steps for user authentication and biometrics, probably what are the system ways on making things safe. But it always starts with the first line saying that it's not 100% safe at all.
Okay.
You focus on 70% of the rural people
That's right.
in India.
Yeah.
How about 30% of the urban area?
If it works with 70% of the population, it should probably work with the remaining 30% also. And the reason why we are focusing on urban or rather rural area is because the distances are huge. Now, if it works in 100 kilometers, it should probably work in 10 kilometers.
How about Chinese case? Because still the half of the population, more than half of the population lives in the rural area in China. But their people are moving from rural area to the city areas. And city areas, health is much better than the rural area.
There are actually two ways of answering this question. Number one is, which I think universally is agreed, is we cannot trust Chinese data. Most of the reports, if they say everybody is happy, it's a bit difficult to believe. The second thing is they are investing a lot of money into healthcare by constructing a lot of healthcare facilities. But the reality is they also face the same problem as healthcare professionals. There are simply not enough people to run these services. And they are also, again, investing into informatics-based systems. And at the moment, except for American Army, the European Space Agency, and some Chinese companies, there is nobody in this world who have developed comprehensive health systems. And by meaning comprehensive health systems, I mean integrated devices, where you could deliver a whole service that comprises of different components in one place. And we are actually trying to do something like that for India. Okay, so I'll continue. So what are we doing? Now, I think it started with me as an individual idea, probably going the crazy way. And now it is turning into an institutional idea. There is a course that is being started. There are more people. And we are getting a little bit more resources also to forward this idea. So from an individual idea, it's becoming an institutional idea, rather a country's idea. So again, maybe we should point out that these seminars do a lot of things that are not directly responsible, but there are actually a lot of other benefits. We have started this course, so it's become an institutional response. There are students. You could pretty much log on to this website, HLTHE, which is a short version of Healthy, where whatever we teach, we are uploading. Most of the students themselves are uploading their presentations, which is pretty much for the first time in India. Any student is actually uploading his own presentation. And in that,
What kind of students do you have there?
yes, healthcare background, a dentist, engineer, a GIS engineer, again a dentist, one more dentist. This guy did his bachelor's in cardiac technology. She is an occupational therapist. So healthcare and engineering, yeah. And we have kept the entrance criteria pretty much low. Low because it is starting up, and low because we want a variety of people to come in. We would be very happy if designers come in. We would be very happy if arts people come in. What we want is at least 3 years bachelor's degree, but with some experience in healthcare. And well, people still haven't left the clinic and joined us. Maybe if you are very successful, in another 3 years or 5 years, people will join. Or on the other side, they should be a little bit crazy, like probably me, to jump into healthcare. Maybe in 2 years or 3 years, we would assume that people would actually join. And this would be actually a very small batch, in the sense that the government says that 6 is a great number, no problem, go ahead and start. Next year, don't take in too many people. In fact, like 40 people, 40 to 50 applied, and we took only 6. Next year, it will be only 10 to 15, and after 3 to 5 years, it will max up at 25 or 30. We don't want more people. What we want is pretty much good ideas and good quality. In another 2 months, we are also setting up what would be India's first small laboratory into image analysis for diagnostics, graphic design for healthcare, product design for healthcare, and also visual analytics. Now, all those things exist in other fields, but not quite for healthcare, even in most countries, not only in India. You don't have a department that actually does product design for exclusively medical applications. You don't have a design course that says, I'm going to design graphic designs exclusively for healthcare. We'd pretty much be the only course or rather the only institution in India who would be doing that, and probably a few institutions across the world. Whether we are successful or not is going to tell, but at least we are trying to do. And this is the government certification which says we have got a grant, and in another 2 months or something, we'll be setting it up. It's through the infrastructure development program. And this is how we are trying to address the rural and remote healthcare in India in 4 different research streams. And once you hear about what we are trying to do with these 4 areas, you'll probably understand how these things actually apply to rural healthcare. Our 4 research areas would be image analysis, graphic design, product design, visual analytics. The first thing I'll just quickly tell you is about product design, and this is the end of KO research design, or rather the KO sponsored paper. Okay. Now this is theory, and this is what we are trying to do next. This is the practical part. So what we are trying to do here is, whatever we learned here is that it is possible to deliver things on a mobile platform. Mobile platform does not mean a mobile phone. Mobile platform is a computing platform that is mobile. Okay. Mobile means a mobile computing platform. There is a difference between computing and a computer. Computer is a physical thing. Computing is the what we call virtual thing that we actually we don't see, but rather we feel with the services. Mobile is just mobile platform. It becomes mobile, not a mobile phone. People restrict mobile health to something on a mobile phone. It's not. If an ultrasound becomes mobile, if you can carry an ultrasound in some device that's the size of the phone, it is a mobile computing platform. It's not a mobile phone. Ultrasounds previously 20 years were shifted in trolleys, this big. But today it has become mobile. Doesn't mean it's on a mobile phone, but rather it is a mobile service. If you can pack an X-ray into a suitcase, it's still not possible today. If you can do that, then there are services that could be delivered using this mobile platform. So that's our idea of mobile healthcare. Now this one, we are trying to turn, at least this is our concept. Again, it's still the same thing. These are the devices that has been listed using the KO research project. And again, these are probably the ideas that we got by going to the field. And we hope that this device not only delivers healthcare service, but also addresses the infrastructure issues. No roads, you could take it on a backpack. No power, we can probably attach a fairly large battery that could be charged using solar or wind power or whatever it is. The size of the battery should be almost like something like 60 kilowatt hour or whatever, something that you actually carry it on your bikes. You know, the electric bicycles, we need a battery something that size, not a mobile phone battery. This is, yes, from here we are trying to take it into a specification level. So this is only a design prototype. So the next step is we'll have to take this to the electrical engineers, and this is what we try to do through this collaborative effort, because we have all the electrical and electronic and product engineers with our partners in the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. So now precisely what I'm trying is, earlier 2 years before it was just an individual idea. And obviously I didn't have the money, or probably I didn't know so many people to actually do this, but now I have the resources. I don't know if it's still going to work, but at least now I have a platform to take things forward. And again, as I said, in another 2 months we'll have the capabilities ourselves to do 3D product design. So at that moment, if I bring in engineers, if I bring in product designers, then I could have a much more detailed design of this product. And that's what probably will be going forward in the next 6 months or probably 1 year. And along with this, we are also trying to work out something that is pretty similar, which is a body area network device. Now this one can take healthcare into rural areas. This one is more into the urban health, where if patients, if they can wear this kind of device, these jackets can continuously transmit information. Now, our role in this is not into manufacturing, but rather to tell people what sensors need to be included for what conditions. That's what we can do from our healthcare background. And this is what we want to do in the sense that we want comprehensive devices, not single devices. Only at comprehensive level, it replaces existing service. Now, what usually people do is they come out with one device and say that it's going to change healthcare. It won't. Reality is it won't. You need a set of devices, set of diagnostic tests. You need software on top of it. You need other things that can at least replace 50% of whatever work you do, and only that can challenge existing systems. Having one small invention does not change anything into healthcare. It will probably exist in exclusion. And again, that is something that we can probably think about doing, because we don't come from engineering background where we can suggest new ideas or new devices. We come from the service background, so we pretty much know what is our necessity, and we can tell engineers how to bring them together. And what are the working issues, what are the ecosystem issues, those are some things that we pretty much know because we have been working. And this is what we are trying to do as part of this course. Again, I've been doing this, but now I can happily say that my students would be working on this with support from the government. What we are going to do next, maybe in the next 1 year or something, come out with a fairly detailed prototype with specifications. Again, prototype. If at all I come out with a working prototype, it will easily take at least 2 years or 3 years. And that's probably true for anybody on this planet. We still, even at this stage, start doing research. As the question that was asked previously, if I actually invent this device, bring it out, nobody will take it because the government regulations say that you cannot actually use it on patients. So we need further research. We need research into costing. We need research into cost comparison, cost efficiency, cost benefits, sensitivity, specificity, reliability, validity, the effectiveness of this system, efficiency, satisfaction. And these are pretty much agreed upon variables. Only if we can have at least what we call a theoretical answer to all these things, then we can ask government for regulations. Unfortunately, we do not have all these things. And for this, obviously, prototype development helps us. But along with the prototype, there needs to be plenty of academic research that needs to go on to make sure that the services can actually be recommended by the government and hopefully taken on by the people. And it's only with all these answers the private companies would actually be interested to invest in money. If they have all these answers, they'd be happy to put in money and then roll out or manufacture devices so that people can actually take. But otherwise, it's completely pointless to invest in money. And hope that we can actually do this a little bit later. So that is with regard to product design. The next research theme that we are actually taking forward is image analysis. And I'd be happy to invite my student to speak on it. He is actually taking the lead. So, Dr. Lovakanth. I just need to press this one. Excuse me.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Lovakanth, and I am looking into image analysis, which is related to diseases and diagnosis, under the guidance of my professor, Dr.Suresh Munuswamy. Actually, image analysis is the method of extracting, processing, and matching the required information from an image. And the image can be anything. It can be an X-ray. It can be a visual examination of the patient who has external manifestations of the disease like rashes or bleeding or injuries. And there are 4 steps basically. The first step is image acquisition, and after the image is acquired, it undergoes a procedure called pre-processing, where the qualities of the image are improved. And then it goes into image segmentation, where the required features which are at a macro level are identified, and then a feature extraction is done pertaining to each particular disease. And finally, the matching is done. The matching is actually done from a query image, which is actually present in the database. If a patient is located in a certain village, say X, and if a patient has a disease, say oral cancer, and if a doctor in that particular rural location takes the image of the oral cavity having the oral cancer, he can send the same image to a city-based hospital. And there the doctor actually uses the database of the images for oral cancer and tries to match both of the images. So that's the matching phase. Why? In India, as Mr. said, I would try to reiterate that point. In India, healthcare services are more skewed towards the urban areas than the rural areas. And imaging helps in more evidence-based decision-making, personalized medicine with individually tailored treatment, less complications, better understanding of the effect of treatments on diseases, and above all in screening of fatal diseases. And image analysis will benefit remote diagnosis of diseases, especially in a low resourceful setting like rural India. And as we can see, there is more utilization of services in urban population, even though it is only less than 30% of population in India. And also the health infrastructure is more concentrated in urban India rather than in the rural India. I basically started by identifying the diseases that have been classified in the International Classification of Diseases by WHO, and I took ICD-10. And a database, after I have chosen the chapter 11 of ICD-10, that is the digestive system, diseases of digestive system. And after that, I would like to form a database of digital images pertaining to different diseases. And this is to provide for the matching, as I mentioned before. And the database would be based on picture archiving and communication system PACS for storage, retrieval, management, distribution, and presentation of medical images. It is very well known in America. The database would be open for access so that anyone can access for future utilization. The basic procedure would be done by the usage of freeware softwares like R and payable software like MATLAB. R consists of a package called EBimage that helps in reading the images into the software. This is actually being implemented for the study of cultures, for bacterial cultures. And MATLAB consists of an image processing toolbox or toolbar, which provides support for all the steps in image analysis. Both the softwares basically convert an image into codes. And there are actually 3 kinds of images. They are grayscale images, binary image, and finally the RGB, that is red, green, and blue. The methods, as I mentioned before, chapter 11 of ICD-10 that provides information on diseases of digestive system is a specialty which I am interested in, from which the diseases and their respective diagnostics have been looked into. There were a total of 331 diseases in this particular chapter, which had some kind of diagnostic procedure. Out of these, only 87 diseases did not have any imaging diagnostic. The rest of them most of them have imaging as the confirmatory diagnostic. This is a table representing the percentages. If you can see into the oral cavity, total diseases are 86, and total diseases with imaging are 80, that is 93%. And total diseases without imaging is 7%. If we look into visual examination is actually done under the visible light directly by the doctor by looking into the external manifestations. And there are 39% of diseases under oral cavity that can be confirmed by using visual examination. And then endoscopy 1%, and these are all the values showing different, the importance of imaging in diagnosing diseases. This is just a graphical presentation. Here we can see different colors indicating visual examination, endoscopy, CT scan, MRI, biopsy, sonography, and X-ray imaging. And these are all the different, this is the proportions of diseases that can be diagnosed pertaining to each particular organ. And This is one method, and this is the mosaic plot indicating the percentages and the organs and the imaging type. So what's the conclusion out of all these things? Image analysis has greater importance to play in diagnosis of diseases, because most of the diseases can be identified by imaging. And as David McCandless would say, sight is the most powerful thing. Visually, we can interpret results more efficiently than other senses. So this is the way forward, I think, for remote diagnosis of diseases. Thank you.
I'll just show you a very small video actually, and then I'll restart my presentation. Do we have audio?
We all know very well that we are bombarded by information. And in fact, most of us feel that there's just too much of it around. We can measure how much information enters our brains by way of our senses, how much goes in through our eyes, how much through our ears, our noses, our mouths, and our skin. By counting up the number of receptors on each sensory organ, for instance, how many visual cells the eye has, or how many taste buds the tongue has, and adding that to the number of signals that nerve connections send from the sensory organs to the brain, scientists can calculate how much information enters our brain every second. This short explanation concentrates on just two of the senses, sight and hearing. Let's see how much information enters the brain through our eyes and our ears, and find out just what the brain does with it. When they are counting up how much stuff we can absorb, cognitive scientists use the same unit of measurement as computer engineers, bits per second. A bit is a binary digit. It's either a 1, representing on, or it's a 0, representing off. Science tells us that the eye receives 10 million bits of information every second. That's about the same amount of information per second that a computer is dealing with when it's downloading a page over a fast web connection. But unlike a computer, the brain throws most of it away and processes only a tiny amount. In fact, our brains process only 40 bits of the original 10 million that came in through the eyes. Using the same method of calculation, scientists know that our ears receive 100,000 bits of information every second. But the brain throws most of that away too. In fact, it processes only 30 bits of the original 100,000 that went in. So just looking at these two senses, what goes into our brains is much more than the brain cares to process. This is how much goes in, and this is actually used. What gets discarded is called X-formation. So, while computers need all the information they can get, and who doesn't want more additional processing power in their computer, the brain takes a look at what comes in and decides just how little it needs to make a decision, how little it can get away with and still function. So why don't designers use this knowledge? If so much information becomes exformation, shouldn't designers put less stuff into their work? Perhaps it's time for a modest update of the old cliché.
I'll get back to my presentation now. Now, let me just get back here. Image analysis for healthcare. Now, I've been talking so long about rural and remote healthcare, and suddenly I'm talking about image analysis. The first thing is I'll have to justify how image analysis is linked to rural healthcare. Otherwise, it would obviously look like I'm jumping topics. Okay. Now, I'll give you two reasons. First is what this table actually tells you. Now, what we have actually did in healthcare without probably realizing is we have converted all the diseases or most of the diseases into visually diagnosable diseases. You take any disease, you actually take an X-ray or a CT scan or probably some tissue that has to be looked under a microscope, or you just have to see for signs and symptoms. So visual recognition is pretty much the key for diagnosing. And if I can actually teach a computer how to do visual recognition, then I have the key for diagnosis. And that's what this table actually shows. What we did was, randomly selected, not exactly randomly, he took probably digestive diseases because he comes from a dental background and digestion starts with the mouth. So he took the digestive system, and the numbers actually support this idea. Close to 90%, 80%, or probably a fairly big proportion of diagnosis is actually happening with imaging. Okay. So if I can actually make computers learn how to recognize images, then I can pretty much do diagnosis, at least screening, wherever images are taken. So if I want to actually deliver healthcare services in rural areas, I should teach computers how to understand images. So that's our interest with regard to imaging, or rather image analysis. The second is probably what the video actually says. Now, why have we converted all diseases into visually recognizable form? It's because your eyes, or rather the visual sense, is the most directly connected with your brain. But there is a problem, and that's what the video says. We think we see so much, but we do not analyze all those things. You can probably see 1 million bits, but you end up analyzing only 40 bits. So although you have connected or converted all these diseases into visually diagnosable diseases, the reality is our brain misses a lot of things. So you may need a computer to actually analyze all those bits, because a computer does not skip. It's fairly an interesting idea. Hope that we actually publish this soon, but we are starting to work on this. And this is also one reason why few doctors are very good in picking out those patterns. A lot of them are not. If your brain can only digest 40 bits out of 1 million bits, the trick is in picking out what 40 bits are relevant and what is not relevant. So there is actually a chance that is happening. Few doctors are very good in picking out these necessary 40 bits, and a lot of them are not good enough in picking up those necessary 40 bits unless they are very obvious. And if you want to leave these things to chance, then it's a very difficult way for health system to sustain. At least at some point of time, you need computers to start analyzing these images. And that is how we are trying to justify that if you want to actually deliver healthcare remotely, then the first step is getting to know image analysis. Even a very small improvement here would probably mean a lot to rural healthcare or rather healthcare in general. So that is one key reason why we are focusing into image analysis, although we started with the idea of rural and remote healthcare. I'll probably again stop here, or maybe after finishing this, so that if you have any questions, you could probably ask. Now that we have decided to get into image analysis, what we are trying to do here is identify the top diseases. The International Classification of Diseases covers all the diseases, and it gives you the list of diseases organ-wise. And we already have identified what devices are used to diagnose. At least for digestive system, these are the only devices that are used: endoscopy, CT scan, MRI, biopsy, sonography, X-ray, and that's all. No other device. So if you can identify the top diseases, or rather by mortality, which diseases affect people the worst, then the next step would be to get at least 50 or 100 stock images. We want to host that onto our server so that it's publicly available, and hopefully let our students use the image analysis software to identify key areas, or rather the feature list. And if we can actually do that successfully, then that would be the first step into image analysis. And the reason why we want to put it publicly is we would want everybody to actually have access to that and start working on it. Did anybody do something like this? Yes, actually. In fact, we took the inspiration with what happened with fingerprint scanning 50 years before, or rather in the 1960s. This is what a few American universities actually started doing. They collected fingerprints, started hosting it publicly, so that a lot of people across the world started working on it, and that's how you have what is actually a fingerprint scanner now. A lot of people across the world started working. They identified feature areas within the fingerprint, started sharing things, and then now you have a working system. It took around 30 years, but with computers and faster sharing of information, we hope the time frame would be significantly reduced to 5 years or 10 years. So this is what we plan to do, at least hopefully in the next 6 months or 1 year. And we are already tying up with what is supposedly the second and third largest hospital chain in India to provide us the images. So we'll probably be hosting it maybe in the next 6 months or something. Any questions? If we get the images, then we want to put a password and a security key on top of it. We'll let everybody see those images. So one disease, like let's say an ultrasound is taking an image of that disease. No, we want at least, like let's say, if I have a wound here, and if I want the software to identify a wound, I need at least 50 to 100 images with a wound on a hand so that you can develop an algorithm. Now, like let's say we have a disease here.
Okay, the quality of the image means quite a lot.
Yes, that's where the academic standards have to be developed. So we need to not only take the images, but we also need to answer which angle the image has to be taken, what needs to be the quality of the image, what needs to be the size of the image, what needs to be whatever standard the image has to be saved. So all those things also need to be concurrently developed.
Current technology is enough to keep the good quality.
Current technology is enough to take images, but current technology is not there to analyze the images, and that's what we are going to do next. Automatically analyze images. Okay. The next one that we are working on is graphic design. Again, why do you need graphic design for healthcare? Are we going to do designer healthcare in rural areas? Not quite actually. Now, again, going back to the chaos study, and I keep going back to this because, as I told you, this is where a lot of things actually started. And if you find on the right side, you find all the processes, and the red dot says there is a tool for each one, which means there is an accepted questionnaire or an accepted set of regulations on how to identify certain diseases or start screening certain conditions or healthcare conditions. Now, what we are trying to do is convert these things into softwares, because softwares make things easier. This is one such that we are trying to develop. This is a disability calculator. Now, there are a lot of disabled people throughout the world. The prevalence rates are between 2% to 15%. And what is usually the case is disabled people get some kind of government benefits. Now, in India, if you want a government benefit, then you need a certificate. The present way is that you have to go to the district hospital, and then a team of doctors or experts would evaluate you and give you a certificate. And if there are 2% in a country as big as 1 billion, it's already 20 million, it's impossible to evaluate each one of these people to give you a disability certificate. Okay. And it doesn't happen, and less than 5% actually have a certificate, which means less than 5% of these disabled people get any kind of government benefits. A lot of people are poor and have no scope of actually working at all. So what we are trying to do is try to automate this. We have started with working on fairly what is easier things, which is dwarfism and amputees. So our software, I'll show you the beta version. If you just enter male and female, your age, and if your present height, it will automatically calculate what is your disability percentage. Disability is actually calculated in percentages, and if your percentage is over 40, then you are eligible for government benefits. Anything less than 40, no benefits. So far, there is a complicated calculation which has to be done by an expert. Okay. The calculation is, there is a standard height, and then how many inches you are below the standard height. For each and every inch, there is a 4% disability. So 15 inches below the standard height means 15 multiplied by 4, which is 60% disability, so positive for benefits. Now, this is complicated because for each and every year, there is a different scale. And we do not actually get scales in inches at all in India because that's been banned. It's all metric system now. So not only you need to calculate, but you have to calculate it in centimeters, convert that into inches, and then subtract it, and then multiply it. So it's pretty complicated. Software does it all quickly. You don't have to do any calculation. You just enter your height, your age, and male or female, it gives you the calculation. Now, what you can also add on top of this is even things that are better. These things can actually sit on top of any smartphone or a tablet. You take a picture, things become more reliable. Otherwise, in the present way, different people evaluate, give different certifications. One person says 45%, other person says 60%. So other person may say 35%, no benefits. So all those doubts can be cleared. If you want things even more reliable, then you could add biometrics to this, so that each certificate can be linked directly to the person. So these are what we say as services being translated onto mobile platform. Again, with regard to amputees, again hand or leg, each number actually represents a percentage, and again it's kind of difficult to choose, or rather to remember what percentage is for which level. Whereas the software pretty much remembers all things, and all you need to do is enter the number and automatically gives you the percentage. Again, you could do the same thing, make it reliable by taking a picture, so there is no cause for any kind of misjudgment. And you need to employ multiple biometrics. A fingerprint won't be enough, because if people lose their thumb, you cannot take a fingerprint. So you have to think about other things. Now, this is the beta version. there is internet connection. Is it? Okay, maybe after the presentation I'll try to show. This is hosted on this website. These are our software developers, and you could actually look into the beta development. Now, what we are actually trying to do is, you see that there is large gaps here. And this is where we think graphic design can actually fill up. We want to put icons in there so that people who cannot even read and write or find it difficult to work on can actually follow the icons. And this is why you need graphic design. And these are the real issues in rural areas. People don't have much of literacy. But they are still happy to use mobile phone and then make a call because they can at least manage to type in numbers and follow the icons because it's pretty easy to remember. And if you can actually take this idea, develop icons, put it onto your software, then it becomes fairly easy to deliver a service. And this is again one reason why we are working into graphic design to deliver rural healthcare. And these are some of the images that we have kind of developed over time. We haven't actually put it onto the software. And hopefully now we will have the facilities to develop more and more images. Now, not only are these things actually good in developing this software or helping us to deliver the software services, but also health promotion itself can be taken forward using graphic design. I mean, design promotes a lot of products. Most of advertising is design oriented. So it's just obvious that healthcare or better healthcare could also be promoted by graphic design. I'll just go to this project. So again, we did an evaluation to see if health promotion actually exists in our country. This is again one of the projects of my previous batch students. And he actually works from the government. And this is actually the advantage of our institution, that most of our students and our institution itself has got very close links with the government, that these people who have been working for 10, 15 years with the government come to our institution for courses. They take a 1-year break and come. So even his research project was actually covered in the newspapers. And this is me. My students are unfortunately a lot older than me actually. Not this batch though. So these were the group discussions that happened probably in one district but in several places. And what this table actually shows you is the number of programs, healthcare programs that are run at rural level. And these are the questions. Do you have any resources to promote these programs? Only one question was asked. Or rather, two questions. Do you have resources? If you have resources, what kind of resources? Print or electronic? And you find that rarely these numbers actually cross even 50%. Even though there are national health programs, they don't even have print or rather any kind of posters or any kind of literature or any kind of resources to tell people what is good, what is not good. And if you ask the same question, do you have any kind of electronic resources? You see that out of 47 people, 46 people do not even know that there is an electronic resource. So pretty much this is near zero or close to 1%. And this is pretty much an opportunity. Everybody, almost even in India, carries a mobile phone. And maybe in 5 years or whatever it is, pretty much everybody will be carrying some kind of a smartphone with a fairly decent screen size of 4 inches or whatever it is. And you have an opportunity to deliver healthcare information. And at present, there is pretty much nothing. The number is pretty small actually. What we did was kind of a complicated statistical analysis, which I barely understand. Our statisticians do actually. We developed an index with principal component analysis, which converted different healthcare promotion programs, 7 of them, into one number. So different scores were given, And then if they are actually delivered, if all the programs are delivered across all the platforms, then it is 1. And if they are not delivered, then the numbers keep going down proportionately. And what you find that is, if 1 is the required number, then most of them are only in 20%, 13%, 15%. So there is a huge scope for increasing health promotion. And that can be done using graphic design. You find that even the best program, health promotion is available or done only at 20% level. So if you want to prevent any disease, or if you want to tell people what is good, what is bad, there's plenty of scope, and graphic design provides you with an opportunity to do those things in a better way. So again, this is justifying what research that we are actually planning to do, or how to take healthcare to the rural population. We need to work on these key areas. The benefits are, if you have better health promotion, then you can change their lifestyle, probably have better effect, because most of the diseases are turning into non-communicable or rather long-term diseases like diabetes, like hypertension. And these require management over a long period. These are not infective conditions. Even in rural India, you have less and less of infective conditions, more and more of these so-called lifestyle diseases. So you need to also look into health promotion. Our final focus area is visual analytics. Again, there is very little data. Why do you need to look into visual analytics to deliver rural healthcare service? Now, visual analytics helps you to see data in a much more clearer way, or rather in a much more visual way. And the previous explanation also stands for this, in the sense that the vision is the most linked sense to the brain. So if you see a lot of numbers, you barely understand, same thing converted into a visual, there is a potential that we can understand a lot more. And if we can understand a lot more, then you can deliver a better service. So whatever data we have, if we convert it into visual analytics, potentially it is possible to deliver better service even in rural healthcare. And as I showed you, one of our students actually comes from engineering background. He is actually a geoinformatics engineer. So he is working on this project where we are trying to map all the healthcare facilities to what is the supply of drugs. Again, most of the work is in starting stages. What he has actually found out is that most of the warehouses, these are not being named because most of it is work in progress. These are the location of the warehouses, and these are the location of the facilities, healthcare facilities. And you find that even in a small selection, they are not optimally placed. So if you want to deliver better healthcare service, you need to move these facilities slightly closer to here so that you can actually move these drugs or facilities or supplies in a much more quicker way. So these are mostly work in progress. One reason is because the whole thing has been happening in the last 2-3 years, and our students are only 6 months old. Hopefully in another 6 months or 1 year, we'll probably have more information. This is one analysis on where the drugs are going. This is information in visual analytics on the drug consumption across the state. Again, if I had actually shown you this information in numbers, it will be very difficult to even understand. The same thing in a visual pattern, you will see that most of the money is actually spent on antibacterials. And this actually maybe raises a question. If most of the diseases are non-communicable, why is money being spent on antibacterials? The answer is pretty much fairly simple. The government health service does not have provision to treat non-communicable diseases. They are still good in treating infectious diseases, but non-communicable diseases, it's a bit difficult to treat. So people do not go to government hospitals for non-communicable diseases. And all this information comes from government health systems, not the private health systems. The private health systems, it's difficult to get any kind of information at present in India. So we are trying to convert whatever data that we can actually get into visual analytics, and hope that in the future we have real-time visual analytics so that not only data can actually be used to understand what is happening, but also surveillance data, where we keep getting data about emerging diseases or probably new and new diseases as it happens throughout the state. We can pick out the patterns and hopefully reach them a bit quickly. Now, this is again the distribution of antibacterials over one district, and you find that there are a lot of anomalies. Certain antibacterials are probably used more in one district and less in other districts. And again, these things would be very difficult to identify if we just see numbers alone. And here it's pretty obvious. So again, we can ask this question: what's the reason why those drugs are used more in those districts? If we have a valid reason, then we can start working on and probably reduce the incidence. Some of the reasons could be just plain corruption, or probably drugs being taken away and sold into the black market. Everything applies. I mean, this is actually the first time this kind of data is actually coming out. It's only 2 years since the government set up even any kind of informatics system.
You don't know the reason behind
No,
yet.
no. And even before we could actually present it back to the state, politics happens in such a way that this state is actually being split into two. Yeah, we are also proposing that there could be a better delivery system, but the problem is 2 different departments are in charge of 2 areas. One department responsibility is to deliver till the facility's doorstep, whereas another department takes over what kind of drugs are actually used inside the facility, and they don't talk to each other. So this department delivers the drugs, whether they use it on the first day, burn it off on the last day, or probably sell it off somewhere, this department wouldn't know. These things pretty much happen throughout the world, I guess. Wherever money is involved, there is some kind of lot of activities actually go on. So we are trying to use geoinformatics system, maybe some visual analysis. We are trying to promote barcoding, these technologies, newer kind of statistical analysis, and real-time inventory management, automated alerting systems, and feedback mechanism to the state government. And whether they are actually going to listen to us or probably change those things, we'll probably wait and see in the next 3 years or 5 years. But again, this is something at least the industries may actually want to know. If they can actually take this report and probably maybe put it up as a proposal, then maybe if they are getting a contract, then things may actually change. I'll just skip through this. So going back to our research focus areas, now I kind of explained these 4 areas: image analysis, graphic design, visual analytics, and product design. And we are focusing on these 4 areas to achieve what is supposedly our ideal aim, which is to deliver rural and remote healthcare. And if we are able to be successful a little bit in these research areas, we believe we can actually take rural and remote healthcare a little bit forward. Any questions? People need time to think.
Thank you for your presentation. Maybe you have already touched on that, but I'm just missing that. Is there any countries you are offering for the joint grant other than Japan?
No.
Is there any countries you are offering for application of this health information?
Is there any country that I'm offering?
There are a lot of countries who have the fewer doctors and the larger landscape?
Yes, thank you for the question. Now, although I'm actually presenting in Japan and probably I'm working in India, if any of what we actually do is successful, it pretty much applies throughout the world. Now, as I told you, the geographical situation, or rather the real situation, whatever is there in India pretty much is there in Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America. But whatever works in rural areas, remote areas in our country, pretty much can be converted into home care in the developed world. So like let's say if we develop a kit or something that can work in an Indian village, it could pretty much be put up in a home in a developed world. Probably in an old age home or probably in some kind of a facility, caring facility. So it is not as if that we have these problems in exclusion. Just about everybody has the same problems. It's just that the magnitude of the problems in our country are fairly huge. And also, it's slightly easier to get things passed through the government in our country because we don't have services. If there are no services, people would be okay to deliver services. But unfortunately, maybe you could actually call it the curse of the developed countries. The reality is, newer technology is difficult to go forward in developed countries because there is an existing business that is profiting or probably happy with existing technologies. There is more and more opposition for mobile health in developed countries rather in developing countries. But that is also an opportunity in the sense that if more and more evidence comes out that these things are actually okay, helpful to people, does not have any side effects, does not have any other kind of effects, then it would probably be adding on to evidence to the developed countries to actually take this route also. And so I guess like we have to kind of start working. The advantage with regard to our place, or rather the institution that I'm actually working with, is not only this is actually a government institution, but the way it was started is pretty unique. In the sense that in 2006, it started up as a public-private partnership. Private doesn't mean private companies, but rather a partnership with the Gates Foundation, the Wellcome Trust in UK. And they actually put in significant amount of money, $50 million from the Gates Foundation, £5 million from the Wellcome Trust. And they identified something like 50 to 75 people, more of them in my age group. And then they offered them the scholarship to do masters and PhD anywhere in the world. So most of my colleagues actually went and did PhDs in America, in Britain, in Australia. And they actually came back and started working. So whatever we actually do, we are actually already working with most of the universities across the world. And we pretty much, most of our colleagues did masters or PhDs across the top world: Oxford, Cambridge, University College in London, then Michigan, Emory, then Hopkins, then in Australia, I'm sorry, yeah, but anyway, pretty much all these people. So whatever we are actually doing is sent throughout the world. And in fact, I'm the only guy who is actually came east, apart from a guy who went to Australia. And although my scholarship is not through my institution, it was a Japanese government funded one. And I took it because there is no strings attached. Japanese government didn't say that I have to be here for 5 years or whatever it is. Whereas the scholarship offered in my home institution, they do have some strings attached in the sense that if you take up the scholarship, you'll have to be in the institution for 5 years or 7 years. So we are fairly well connected with the whole world.
2 more questions,
Please.
If I may raise. You have presented as to the benefits from those healthcare information, page 44. Okay. And is there any solid or supporting evidences to show the benefits upon the application of your healthcare information?
Now, these are benefits of health promotion. Now, if you are more specific in the question that does informatics component actually help health promotion? Now, I'll just actually minimize this slide and then open up another slide where we are actually working on answering these questions. Now, this is a research project that I'm currently involved in, and this is funded by the European Union, where we are looking at diabetes and depression. Now, this is what I was trying to tell, that a few researchers, almost like half a dozen of them, are spending 6 months in the villages, trying to map out their entire lifestyle, their way they exercise, the way they take the drugs, their social networks, and probably their diet, and trying to identify all the key areas so that a mobile application can be developed that helps them into all these things. Not only they are looking at the medical aspects, but also with regard to depression, they are looking at the local cultures where people go to faith healers, where people try to, have this, what do you call, not magic, but rather some kind of traditional beliefs where if you tie something to your hand, then your mental health problems could be cured. So they are actually trying to map all these things and see how a mobile application can help these people to take these services a little bit better. So there is actually a lot of work in progress with regard to answering how health promotion, or rather how different components, not only health promotion, but rather how surveillance, how different types of management, how different types of follow-up can be, one, transferred onto a mobile platform. But once it is transferred, what kind of benefits do people actually get? And how to quantify those benefits, how much benefit people actually get, and is there any other side effects or whatever it is. So it will probably take another 1 year or something for us to answer these questions. But these initiatives are already going forward. And this is just one such. I'll just quickly finish off the next two. This is again another project as funded by the Grand Challenges Canada, where we are developing health promotion videos for children suffering from autism and cerebral palsy. Now, they are actually have to be managed continuously by caregivers or probably by their relatives, and they need a lot of support and also guidance on how to manage these kids. Most of them are not available, and if they can be put onto a mobile platform, then they could probably learn it at their own speed and then maybe help to take care of these children. Again, we are actually developing these videos, and this project would be over in another 6 months. So maybe in the next round, I could probably show it actually. We are now shooting the videos. This one again is with regard to stroke victims, similar ones where people with strokes, cerebral defects, late into their life, maybe into their 40 years, 50 years, when they actually suffer from strokes, how to rehabilitate them, how to help them with exercises. Again, these videos are being shot now. So a lot of work is in initial stages or in progress actually. And as I told you, that's the reason because it's pretty much a new institution. And the results would be coming out in the next 6 months or 1 year. And this is actually one of the project of my colleague who is actually doing PhD in London School. And even our director of Indian Institute of Public Health, he actually does 2 jobs. He has a 30% job in London School where he is a reader in Community Disability Department, and 70% he is in Indian Institute of Public Health, and he is paid for by the National Health Trust. And most of our, as I told you, most of our colleagues' PhDs are actually funded by Wellcome Trust.
I have come to 2 more questions.
Please.
Well, I have no idea how to input my personal data to transfer to healthcare information. Do I have to input by myself or just put somewhere to my body? And the other is what is your business earning model? Is it sales to the government or specific hospitals of a software?
Thank you very much. Now, I'll go to the first question. The first question, theoretically, you can slot it under usability. if I'm right. Okay. Now, this is a question with regard to usability. How do I enter data? Now, the answer is, should I actually enter data? The way we see it is, if data is captured directly, that's the best way. If there is a human being in the middle entering data, number one, the system is not that usable. Second is, there is issues of reliability. Okay. So ideally speaking, and that's one of the reasons why we go in for comprehensive systems, is we need different components to take data directly. Now, should I enter name and age every time or my ID? I think that's a bad way. If you are having a biometric system that can actually scan at least some of the body parts or something and can automatically log into your database, I think that's a great idea. Again, the same thing. If I'm supposed to enter my name, details every time I take my blood sugar, then that is not a good way. It should probably be linked automatically. So how can we actually do it? That's something that we are experimenting on. So if we are having different diagnostic kits to do different things, that's automatically not the best way. It's not effective, it's not reliable. So you need a comprehensive device that can be connected to this person either through biometrics or GPS or whatever it is. So that, like, let's say I take this device to the home of a person. Automatically, if the home GPS or GIS location is marked onto this device, it can say there are only like half a dozen homes within this vicinity, so which one? Choose it. So the more and more automated things become, or more and more usable things become, then it becomes easier. I would rather say we have to push things to the point that data entry becomes automated. If there is a manual entry point, it's not reliable. So that's probably my first answer. Can we actually do it now? This is theory. I'm an academic. The second part, where is the business model? Now, at the moment, at least when it comes to rural health service, it's all government dominated. Now, ideally, what we want to do is, as an academic, I'm not much worried about the business model at the moment, but we want to generate evidence that these services can be delivered on a mobile platform. Now, even if I come out with a prototype, nobody is going to accept it. So I need to generate more and more evidence. First, is it reliable? Is it usable? Is it effective? Is it making people happy? Even if it works, what is the sensitivity rate? What is the specificity rate? Can be linked to diseases? How many diseases can it be actually linked to? Only when I have all these answers can I actually put a number on top of it. Till then, I cannot actually put a number. And I'll have to go back to almost my first slide. Yes. We are at present here, and we should not ask about cost till we reach here. If we start asking about cost here, we will never go forward. Till these answers, or till it is actually taken to a clinical trial, we should only focus on people's needs and benefits. If there are needs, and if it is addressed, then cost comes only later. If we start asking about costs here, I don't think any dream would actually go forward. There was a government project to give ID cards to everybody, but now that there is a new election, we do not really know if the new government would be actually willing to support it. The last... No identifier? Not yet, no. There are multiple identifiers, but no single unique identifier.
It is required.
It is required, yes. It was work in progress, but after 5 years, almost like 70% of the people have been given a certificate or an ID card, and it was supposed to be linked to benefits, but the government, Supreme Court has actually stayed it. The current ID actually has fingerprint, iris scan, address.
Okay.
In Japan, that is some kind of a difficult question because even in Japan, that is very serious because we need to accumulate the data over one generation to know some kind of the public health project. But it is very difficult to trace the individual people's health data or medical data quite a long time. So identifier is very important. And also the second question is some kind of protection of the individual data. And it is quite difficult to make it public available. So that might be the sensitive question. And I believe that India may have the different answers to this question.
Yes, please.
Can I make a question?
Please, sir.
My question is practical how to. Suppose that there's one person who has some breathing problems in a rural area. Who are you expecting to take like an X-ray photo, and who will really input or transfer this data into the system? That's my question.
Now, first thing is, if we have a
diabetes, like a sugar rate, I'm taking a sugar rate every day, so it's no problems. But the X-ray image is totally different.
Okay. Now, let me kind of see this slightly a bit differently. Now, we'll go to the breathing problem first. Now, if there is a breathing problem, first thing, unfortunately, is we don't take an X-ray, but we put a stethoscope onto a chest and then start listening. Now, there is a stethoscope, analog one, there is an electronic stethoscope. If you just Google straight away, Littman has an electronic stethoscope that comes with a CD that automatically analyzes the breath sounds and gives a differential diagnosis. What could be the problem? Do we have it in rural areas? No. If we could at least take this, put the stethoscope onto a child or a person who is actually having a breathing problem, then at least with 85% to 95% reliability, we can see, or probably we can know if this person needs an immediate shift to a hospital or not. So what you need is an electronic stethoscope. And if this guy actually reaches a hospital, then obviously there is a healthcare person who can decide a little bit with more informed information. So in a rural area, yes, we cannot actually take an X-ray. Now, also, we'll need to look a little bit differently, and we need to go back to the first slide where I said there are at least 4 levels of healthcare: home care, primary care, secondary care, and tertiary care. And we are focusing on home care and primary care. At least in our system, there are no X-rays in primary care. X-rays and fairly bigger diagnostic systems are present in secondary level and tertiary level. And maybe in the near future, we may not be even able to take X-rays to the rural areas. But taking a stethoscope to a rural area, yes, that is something that we would definitely want to work on. And because that's something that can be delivered at primary level and secondary level. So am I answering the question?
Yeah. One example, X-ray machines. Our military developed lots of portable X-ray machines. So this can be used for sending this X-ray to some rural area.
Now, let me again answer this slightly a bit differently. Our idea about health informatics is not to take tertiary healthcare to primary healthcare level. What we want to do is take one step downwards or one step forwards. What ideally we want to do is take primary healthcare to home care, secondary healthcare to primary healthcare, tertiary healthcare to secondary healthcare. I mean, as an academic, I can have a structure. As a business person, I'd be very happy if I take tertiary healthcare down to primary healthcare. But as an academic, this is what I would kind of try to suggest, because the moment I start telling health informatics, then they ask a question. Do you want to do brain surgery in a rural area? No, I don't want. All I want to do is do what is available at a primary health system. If I'm able to take it to all the villages, I'll be very happy. Whatever is available in a district hospital, if I'm able to take it to the towns, I'd be very happy. If people do not have to go to big cities, and if they are happy to get, or rather if they're able to get tertiary level healthcare in district hospitals using technology, that would be great. So this is probably the structured way we academics think. And if X-rays machines, as you say, become very small, very portable, and if I'm able to provide it even at primary healthcare level, that would be a great step forward. I don't have to take it to villages. Even if I'm able to take it to primary health centers, that would be great, because even secondary health centers in India do not have X-ray machines.
Thank you very much. Nice presentation. Now, so far, the question and answer, okay, let me raise a couple of questions. Okay,
please.
And the first question is in India, okay, the healthcare expenditure of people living in urban is very high, or the lower must be lower than the revenue or the income of the people. Could you give me some figures on that healthcare expenditure?
Okay. Now, when we are talking about rural and urban healthcare, now if you are talking about urban healthcare, what is the approximate number that we can actually put on? Now, the approximate number does not exist as such because we do not have any kind of information, reliable information. Not all of them are actually onto any kind of an insurance system. It's mostly out-of-pocket expenditure. Now, at least there is some kind of research papers that say that a lot of people are driven into poverty because of their healthcare expenses. Now, those things we can say that healthcare is a huge expenditure and it is actually making people more and more poor. But what's the exact number? Unfortunately, there is no data because we don't have universal insurance schemes or any kind of insurance to say how much people actually contribute. Now, at present, certain state governments are coming out with insurance schemes that cover most of the population. And at least the way that these state governments are getting elected again and again means that people are finding this useful. So in a roundabout way, we can say
conceptually they understand. But however, your target is to apply or to introduce your system to the people in a rural area. They have sufficient. They must have sufficient money to buy your systems.
Not necessarily. Now, our primary target is not the people, but rather the healthcare professionals that who are already managed by the government. Now, this is where the new insurance schemes are actually providing us with this kind of initial numbers. Now, so far, like let's say if the government has been spending X million of dollars for delivering healthcare services, and now that the government is paying the private hospitals to deliver healthcare, suddenly the costs have gone up 10 times. And now the government is finding it difficult to take them back because people are happy. People will probably not vote them again if they take it back. Now there is a reason that health prevention or better healthcare should be delivered. And one of the reasons why they are supporting us is saying that health insurance companies are charging so much, can you actually make or deliver better healthcare services to the people? So now at least we have a limit to say that these healthcare systems can actually work out a little bit cheaper. And if we can come out with the numbers and say that our devices can provide better healthcare instead of paying for the insurance people, then we have a way to go forward. Most of rural healthcare is delivered by the government. And if at all, if things work, our primary business partner would be the government. Or rather, we are on a government organization, so we'll have to work with other divisions of the government to hope that they actually take up these systems.
However, entire people, people in India have to cover all of that payment, regardless of the living in the urban area or the rural area. At that time, do you think that your system can reduce healthcare expenditure in total?
Now,
why?
First thing is, any informatics system is expensive at first.
Yeah.
The more and more people it reaches, the costs come down proportionately. Initially, it will be expensive, but as things go forward, it could actually get cheaper. Now, will people be able to pay for it? Now, initially, with regard to any business, the way it actually starts is government gives initial subsidies to start up the business. It reaches a significant level, then it becomes cheaper for people to actually pay for it, and then businesses go forward. That's how every business starts up, whether it is building an airport or building a plane or probably laying a road or whatever it is. Initial government subsidies are a key part, and that's what even the government is trying to give. Now, if the government is going to cover our research costs, and if you are able to put these things freely without much of a patent cost or whatever it is to the businesses, then the cost of actually manufacturing and delivering the services is pretty low. And we are not actually looking to make profit from doing designing or developing these devices. What we are trying to do is take government research money, develop the systems, give these things back to the people, and hope that these services are fairly cheap enough for the government to take it back. If I'm going to give a number, it won't be right at the moment.
But, I agree to your opinion about the investment. And I hope so. I hope that your idea will be realized, supported by the Indian government. At the moment, any country, regardless of the developed country or developing country, right now, healthcare cost is growing up. So therefore, there is no allowance to manage such project. That's my understanding. For example, you know the Yubari city in Hokkaido, northern part of Japan. Just 2007, just the same time that you started this project, that city was bankrupt. At that time, the Yubari city has to shut down the city general hospital. And the people in the Yubari city gave up the effective healthcare. But since then, people in the Yubari and the mayor of Yubari, as well as the medical doctor, have made a lot of effort. As a result, mortality of the Yubari city was drastically declined, and healthcare cost declined, maybe down to the 1/3 of that previous time. At that time, they didn't take any data, but people living in the Yubari city have made a lot of effort to take care of their health without data. I suppose data that seem to be useful, but not indispensable to maintain our body healthy. That's my understanding. At that time, I wonder how your system can make a good contribution to all the Indian people living in a rural to get a better health.
Now, let me actually start.
What I want to say is, unfortunately, right now in Japan, that big data is booming. Many people believe that big data can give us useful information, but in the field of healthcare, unfortunately, big data can be converted in information, but the information cannot be converted in knowledge, or understanding, knowledge, or wisdom. That's the current obstacles. From that viewpoint, I wonder, okay, how much big data or how much data can support, can give that people living in that rural area get more healthy condition. That's my
I completely agree with you. First thing is you don't need data to deliver a better service. That's reality. And that's where I kind of told you that our course does not focus on electronic health records or any kind of data. Data, information, knowledge, service. Data put into context becomes information. Information, use our experience, becomes knowledge. Knowledge, if it is used for any kind of activity, it becomes service. But you don't actually need data to deliver a service. Big data, they say, will answer all your questions. It may or it may not. It may answer business systems, but how much of help it is to the individual is questionable. Now, we are not taking the route of data. We are actually trying to convert existing services into informatics-based systems, services, so that we can deliver services where it doesn't exist. So there is no service, there is some kind of a service. No relation to data. We are not working on networking the systems. We don't even assume that internet facilities will be there. We don't want data. We want to deliver a service. And the example that I gave you means that a service can be delivered with no link to data at all. Data is necessary only when you are looking at population-based levels. And if you are looking at small towns, if you are looking at small villages, we don't need networking. All we want is a portable service. All we are looking at is a mobile way to deliver a service. No link to data.
If the health, science and technology related healthcare is must be sufficient. In that case, I completely agree. Yeah. But okay, right now, okay, you pointed out about the diabetes or the hypertension and so forth. Okay, unfortunately, okay, the patient has to mainly rely on the drugs. But okay, some of the medical doctors, they have already known that, okay, how to cope with the diabetes or the hypertension without taking any pill.
Yeah.
Okay. But unfortunately, that is the based on the understanding about our health. But unfortunately, okay, the current system, regardless of the mobile or PC, okay, can tell us, okay, what is the most reliable or reliable okay, knowledge, understanding about healthcare. Therefore, okay, medical doctor have to choose some of the methodology, some of the technology to apply apply the specific patient. It depends on the decision of the patient. But unfortunately, we know that our health condition, is good or not. Better than the medical doctors. Therefore, okay, what I want to say is, okay, why your system, okay, should not consider the patient, okay, the patient himself or patient herself, without taking the specific data from that, like blood sugar and so forth.
Now, from an individual's viewpoint, I would agree. But from the viewpoint of a system, I would have to start arguing. I would not disagree, but I have to start arguing. Now, on one side, you have to standardize things necessarily because you have to scale them up. On the other side, I will have to ensure uniqueness of delivering a service because supposedly every individual is unique. I have to find a balance. If everyone says I am unique and I am not going to follow your system, I'd have 7 billion variations. No computer on this planet can actually handle that much variations. So I have to cut down the variations. And if I want to start paying people quickly, effectively, I can't have 7 billion variations. If I have 7 variations, I can pay people instantly. And most of healthcare is paid for by insurance. And insurance people need standardization, not variations. A doctor, if he wants to listen to his head, starts treating and disagrees with the insurance person, then the patient has to pay. If the patient can pay, private hospitals exist. No link with insurance. Posh private hospitals are there. People go, have personalized medicine, have a personalized doctor, things go forward. But if I want to take up insurance, I have to follow certain rules. I have to follow certain standardizations. It's not only the part of the patient to follow them, unfortunately even the doctor has to follow these things. So from the point of a system, I need to cut down the variations. So I have to start arguing. But from an individual's viewpoint, I'm not arguing, I'm agreeing.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, please. So finally, this is what we are planning to do in the future fairly quickly, is that we hope that we get more money. Once you start asking government for money, there is no end to it. So you keep asking more and more money, so that we can set up a center for health informatics and technologies. And if our students actually design something or invent something, we hope that we can set up an entrepreneurship center so that maybe they can start up a business, maybe it's a social enterprise, maybe they give it freely to the government so that they can actually decide. Also, we are trying to develop a network of academics, and this is something that we are doing from day one. As I told you, that most of our faculty are actually already studying. Most of them are students just returning back and then starting to teach. And we are setting up a networking system where we bring in more academics, we are bringing in more industries. And very recently, most of our academics are also trying to get onto industries. Is this internet connection available?
Not yet.
Okay. And then we are also trying to get into online lectures and courses. And as I told you, most of our students are actually putting up all their presentations, student presentations online in the next few years. Or maybe in 2 years, we want to put up all the basic presentations online for free, so that students who come in with an idea, work on a project, use the 2 years or 5 years if it is a PhD, work on a project and then go out and hopefully set up their businesses or maybe help the government to deliver services. So this is the model that we want to take, and hope that we can have some Indo-Japanese case studies as video lectures on the platform. Also, we are trying to build on existing partnership with state government, and we are actually trying to take one step forward in the sense that instead of just giving them guidelines, what we are trying to do is try to work with them and set up systems so that we, instead of giving our ideas to private companies and they charge a lot for the government, we actually engage private companies and see if we can actually manage the project itself. I don't know if it's going to work, but this is what we are trying to actually help or do. And also, we are also trying to help the Indian industry indigenize devices. And at present, almost all the devices are either imported or the technology is imported and assembled in India. There is little of actual development or design that's actually going on in India. So we are trying to indigenize medical devices and technologies. This is what we want to do in the future. And hopefully, this is where we would want to set up a partnership and take things forward through KBS to Japan. Hopefully, if we can reach out to more medical device companies, medical service companies, or maybe if we can set up an Indo-Japanese forum for health informatics, maybe write some joint grants, or start some more faculty exchanges if I can bring more students, if you can send more students. And if they are able to get into jobs, then this justifies this whole exercise. So this is what we want to explore in the future. That's my presentation on health informatics in rural India. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate Dr. Suresh Munuswamy and his student. His name again? Lovakanth, and first year student. Okay. I appreciate you came all the way from India. How long does it take to come here?
11 hours.
11
10
hours.
to 11 hours.
Okay.
The stopover in Hong Kong.
So, okay. And they will stay several days to do some research related to this stuff. And discussions and opinions are welcome. And we wish to learn from them also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So 5 minutes off, and Mr. Lawrence Lane, will you make 5 minutes or several minutes? Do you need? Yeah. Okay, so it's I will adjust. So maybe 5 minutes off, and another several minutes for the final presentation.